Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to a new video. We just came back from Annapurna Base Camp Trek 2 days ago, and before we started this trip, I had a lot of questions that I googled, I was researching, looked it up on YouTube, and I couldn't really, I almost dropped my phone. I couldn't really always find a good answer online, and that's why I thought I wanted to put together a quick Q&A for everyone. I'm going to go through super quick because I don't want to get too much of your time. But I have 3 categories. What were the questions before we booked? Then what were the questions before we flew to Nepal? And then what were the questions once we were in Nepal but before our trek started? I'm going to really go through it quickly. So question 1, agency, group tour, or doing it alone? We went for a group tour because we wanted to have a group experience, wanted to meet other people, and we thought it would be much nicer having a professional guide that we could ask questions to. And honestly, we were 100% correct. I would do it the exact same way again. Maybe if you want to go cheaper, come to Kathmandu first, go into one of the hostel world chats, find some people there that you can do the trek with, and then go together to an agency to get a price a cheaper price. That will be cheaper, and it will give you a similar experience because you also have a group. I don't know then how good the English is of the guides, how good the porters are and everything. So that's a bit an unknown, but it's definitely another option. Intrepid or G-Adventure? Honestly, we met Intrepid, so I went with G-Adventure. We met Intrepid on the trek. They did the exact same route as we did. The only difference was about base camp. They stayed a bit longer at base camp, but had much shorter time than to come down. So I think it doesn't really matter. G-Adventure is slightly cheaper, typically. It depends on the sale period as well. But yeah, so I think you can't go wrong with either. But also, again, I've never done Intrepid. I've only done G-Adventure 2 times now, and I had 2 times an amazing experience. Which trek should we do? Circuit, ABC, so Annapurna Base Camp, Everest Base Camp, or another one? We went for Annapurna Base Camp because we wanted an easier option. We wanted to do, my girlfriend originally wanted to go 5 days, and then we negotiated to do ABC, which is longer than 5 days, so that's 10 days, but it's also easier than Everest Base Camp or Circuit, which are both a bit longer and higher altitude. I think if you are somewhat fit and you have done some treks or hikings in the past, go for Everest Base Camp or the Circuit. If it's your first, go for ABC. And if you want something new, go for Manaslu Trek. Manaslu Trek is what is being said that this is how the treks used to be 10 years ago. It's a bit more basic, much longer. I think it's around 20 days as well. But it must be a very unique experience. And our guide said that's his favorite trek in the whole of Nepal. How difficult is the trek? I think Annapurna Base Camp, if you have decent fitness, you don't need to. I don't go to the gym. I don't run every week, but I managed. It's just walking in the end, long walking, of course, but you manage. And if you go with a group tour like we did, there you have an assistant guy in the front which paces you. So you're not going too fast, so you're not going to be exhausted. So I think it's doable for almost everyone, unless you're somewhat unfit or have other issues. Then maybe think about it twice, but then you would also return after day 1 or 2 because you realize it very quickly yourself. So don't worry about this fitness too much. I think we were way too worried about it at the beginning. Yeah. How much extra does it cost? We spent for the trek a bit more than €1,000. That always depends on the sale period, of course. But that's what we did. And then we spent, I think, about €300 per person on top of that. But we were also budget conscious because we travel for 1 full year, so we don't want to splurge too much. A lot of other people that just did that for like holidays spent, I think, almost double than what we did. So I think if you're expecting to spend somewhere between like 250 euros to like 450, 500 euros on top of the package price, you're fine. Because you have to pay meals, you have to pay coffee, tea, snacks, the tips for all the guides and porters, etc. So yeah, keep that in mind. How does a typical day look like? Well, you get up in the tea house or guest house, which are quite basic facilities. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Then you have breakfast there, which has basically the same menu in all the tea houses, so you don't have to worry too much. It's everywhere the same, just more pricey the higher up you go, because they have to carry it there as well. After breakfast, your porters that carry your luggage already went ahead to the next location. You then trek for 2-3 hours until you have a rest at the tea place, get a tea or a coffee. Then you trek for another 1 to 2 hours, then you have lunch. Typically, again, that's already pre-ordered because you order that at your tea house location, and then you get the food much quicker. That's one of the advantages if you go with an organized tour, that you can do something like this, so you don't have to wait that long. And then you hike or trek for another 2 to 3 hours, depending on the day, sometimes also a bit longer. And then you arrive at your final destination of the day. You check into the room, you do a lot of games, card games, you just chill, have a drink. Typically there is no internet connection, or only if you pay. So I quite enjoyed that, so people really like hang out together, talk with each other. And then you have dinner, and after dinner, typically a debrief and a brief of the next day, and then you will go to bed and get up at 7 a.m.-ish the next day again. So that's what a typical day looks like. Can you walk at your own speed? No. You have an assistant guide in the front, and the guide, or in G adventure terms, the CEO at the back, that pace you and make sure no one gets lost. So you can't walk at your own pace, but honestly I was very happy about this, because I think most people, including me, would have gone too fast, and then we would have struggled with altitude at one point. How are the facilities? What about the toilet situation? Facilities, quite basic. The higher up you go, the more basic. So at the lower altitudes it's still fine. But the higher up you go, you're not going to have heating anymore. Maybe there is only a cold shower or no shower at all. Maybe you don't have Wi-Fi anymore. The prices for the food are like increasing a lot. So that's the situation. Expect that. If you're going with a tour like Chi Adventure, you also share your room with someone. So I mean, it's the mountains. It is basic, but honestly, it's a really cool experience. So I can't really recommend it enough. Toilet situation, lower altitudes, you have Western toilets. Higher altitudes, it's more difficult to find. You have more squat toilets, like the Asian style toilets. But we had in every tea house or guest house that we slept in, we had a Western toilet. We just needed to look for them. But sometimes in the places we had lunch in or tea, you could only find squat toilets. And also, important note, you have to bring your own toilet paper or baby wipes, because there is none along the whole trek. You can buy them in all the tea houses, but they don't provide them on the toilet, so you do have to bring that yourself. If you book a group tour, you can book add-ons. Which add-ons should you book? Hotel transfer, so airport to hotel, I think is not really worth it. You're much cheaper if you book something through InDrive, and everyone that uses an Uber, I think, can use InDrive. So I think they charge you around $20 more or less for pickup, and if you go with an InDrive, it's like 3 to 5 euros, so much cheaper. But of course, if you want the convenience, go for it. I think what is really worth it is booking one flight from Pokhara to Kathmandu, or the other way around. Not that you can avoid the street. The street is somewhat okay. It's a 6 to 10 hour way very, very bumpy. It depends a bit on the conditions of the streets, but it's doable. But if you fly, you have the whole mountain range that you can view. So you have basically a sightseeing flight, and that's quite cool. So you can ask to be on the side of the mountains, and then you see the whole range of mountains in Nepal from your flight. And it takes around 30 minutes instead of 6 to 10 hours. What should you do after the tour? I think that's a question a lot of people neglect and just go back to Kathmandu. Now that I've done it, if you do Annapurna circuit or base camp, I can really recommend staying in Pokhara. It's such a lovely town, amazing vibes, and it really invites you to stay longer there and to just chill for a bit. And after your trek, you're also quite exhausted, so I think that's something you would want to do. We didn't do it. I wasn't that smart, but if you have the time, do it. Then maybe travel around Nepal for a bit more. It's beautiful here, or go down to India or something like this. But of course, if you have to go back to work, you have to go back. What's a typical group size? Depends. I think anything from 5 to 14, 15 is normal. We were 6, and I love the size of the group. Yeah, but that's typically what's the normal group size. How do the ways look like? That's a very good question that a lot of people were surprised about. It has much more stairs than you think. So it goes up a lot. There's days you cover 1,400 meters in altitude. So you go up a lot, you go down a lot, but a lot of these ways are then done through stairs. Not everything, and it changes all the time, of course, but still, there is much more than what people expected. So be aware of that. You can like that or not like that, but overall, other than that, the way is very diverse. You start in super cute green scenery with farmhouses everywhere, kids playing, and then you go further up, you come into a more jungle environment where you see monkeys in the forest, and then you go even further, you cross the tree line. You don't see anything anymore from trees, but you have this amazing bushes at the bottom with the mountains in the back. It's just absolutely stunning, honestly. And if you have great weather, you will enjoy it even more. So yeah, can only recommend it. Is the country safe? You can look up statistics online to answer that. I can only give you my experience, which was I felt much safer than I thought I would. We haven't had any issues. Of course, you have to still take care of your phone and wallet, etc., but we didn't really have any issues. Second category, that is, what were our questions before we flew, but after we booked the tour? That's mostly around what should you bring. So our question was, what kind of shoes should we bring? I think hiking shoes, of course, are great. They just have to be waterproof. Then trekking shoes can be done as well. But if you have trekking shoes, most of them are not waterproof. And then run trekking shoes. Then bring an extra of hiking boots so you're fine. I wouldn't recommend sneakers just because the way can be quite slippery because all the stairs are made with stones and the stones get very slippery when it's wet, so when it rains, and it can always rain in the mountains. So I wouldn't do that. You also see some locals doing it in flip-flops, but I think these are people that grew up in the mountains up there, just carrying around things, so you don't want to do that. So bring some proper hiking boots. But you also you don't have to have anything crazy. What luggage should you bring? Doesn't really matter because you store the luggage at the hotel in Pokhara, at least when you do a group tour, and then they give you a duffel bag where you put everything in, and then you have your day pack. So you have your duffel bag that you give to the porters, they carry everything for you, and then you have your day pack where you just keep your layers that you want for the day and your drinks and your food, like some snacks. So it doesn't matter what luggage you bring, but don't bring too many things. In the duffel bag for us should be between 7.5 kilos to 10 kilos. That includes your sleeping bag, and the sleeping bag was properly big and heavy. So there is really not much you can bring. You will stink at one point on this way because you can't always do laundry. So just keep that in mind. But it's normal. Everyone does a bit. And once you're back down on the from the mountains, you can air wash everything again, and it feels amazing. What should you bring? What should you rent? What should you buy? So here in Kathmandu, you can really get all the trekking gears you can think of, but you don't really want to buy everything. So the important things I think you shouldn't buy or rent here is raincoat, rain cover, sunglasses, and like puffy jackets and hiking boots. So everything that really should have a good quality. I think what you can get here, what you can buy is like hiking pants, because it doesn't really matter if they're like original or not. Some t-shirts, some fleece or something like that. Totally fine. Trekking poles, day pack. That's everything you can get here or rent here as well. We did rent the poles and the day pack just because we're traveling for 1 year and we don't carry everything around. And we were very happy with what we got. Everything you can find here is fake. There is, I think, 2 original stores in the whole city, but everyone sells you fake stuff, but it's mostly good enough for one trek. Hiking poles, yes or no? Should you bring that? Should you get it? Everyone on our group had them, and everyone but one person used them. I was really happy that I had them because on day 3 when we went down, I started getting very strong pain in my knee, and then the hiking poles really helped me and supported me in going down. So it's a personal preference in the end, but I think it never hurts to bring something like that. What medicine should you bring? I'm not covering everything here because first of all, I'm not an expert. You can Google that stuff, but I think what you should bring for sure is tiger balm, some kind of ibuprofen gel, and blister plasters. So you're covered for everything because you will have some muscle pain or something at one point, and then you want to cover that. So make sure to bring that. Another thing you maybe want to bring, and that goes into the next question, is key items to bring. And I'm not covering everything here, but like things that typically people don't tell you to bring. I think that's 2 things or 3 things. So first of all, Tupperware container, bring something like this. So you can buy snacks in bulk at the beginning. It's much cheaper here in the city than up in the mountain. And then you can like make every day a small little assortment of your snacks and carry them in your Tupperware. That's number 1. Number 2 is a water filter. All the water that is up there has to be carried up there, and therefore it's a bit more pricey. And also then they have the issue of the PET bottles that they have to put somewhere. So it's really much easier for you if you just bring a water filter, so you can get some tap water and filter it yourself. Or, and that's my second option, which relates to the medicine, bring some water filtration tablets. So you just get a liter of tap water, put 1 tablet in, and then it filters it. They sell them here in Kathmandu, but you can also bring it from back home, of course, because here in Kathmandu maybe it's a bit different from what you know. What SIM card or eSIM should you get? The most common one most people have is Ncell. If you get it through one of these online providers, you will have Ncell most likely. I do not recommend that to get, because everyone that had Ncell, including me, struggled to get data up there. What worked very well, what all our guides had, all our porters, was Nepal Telecom, it was called. So that's the SIM that everyone had that they said has the best coverage in the mountains. So try to get that here in Nepal once you arrive. Then third category is, what were the questions we had before we before the tour started, but once we were in Nepal. So we got confronted quite quickly with the cash question. How much cash should we get out of the ATM? And the reason for that is because up there you can't pay card. There's no phone payment, so you need to have everything cash from the very beginning for the whole trek. And as I said, we spent an additional 300 euros per person. That's around, I think at the moment, it's around 45,000 Nepali rupee. But you want to have some extra, of course, because you don't want to run out of cash. And it could be that you have a much more expensive lifestyle up there. If you want to get a hot shower every day, if you want to get internet every day, if you choose the more expensive meals on the menu, if you want the starter and the dessert as well, you will easily come double that budget or even more. So make sure you get enough cash. For us, it was enough to have around 45,000 per person. But yeah, it's really up to you. Where should you stay before the tour? So we came 2 days earlier and leave 3 days later. And our question is, where should we stay in Kathmandu? The hotel from Chi Adventures, I'm recording this in October 2024, was close to Tamil. So it makes sense for us to stay in the district of Tamil. Tamil is the most common touristy area here. So it's very easy to find something. And we are staying right now in the particular hostel of Yaketi Yak. You can see it behind me, how it looks like. We stayed here before, loved it, so we came back. So I can really recommend that. But staying in you can't go wrong by staying in the district of Tamil. What's the best thing to do before the tour? I think that's quite easy. So if you have a tour with Chi Adventure or Intrepid or anyone else, just look at what are they going to cover in Kathmandu. Like what are the sightseeing spots you're going to see, and then do everything else. So for us, we basically covered everything that I would say is like the main points to see, except the Buddha stupa close to the airport, the big one. So we went and had a look at this. It was beautiful, amazing district, super nice vibes. We got a coffee there, looked at some of the art studios. So can really recommend just having a look, what are you not covering, and then doing these things before. Last but not least, the question I struggled most with at the very beginning, how cold is it going to be at the base camp? And what kind of jacket should I bring? I was very much worried that I would be too cold. And so I was contemplating if I should get a thick jacket or not. I decided against it, and I'm very happy I did. Again, it depends on which month you're going to go, but in October, the temperature up on base camp can reach from anywhere from -5 to like +10. And what I didn't realize is that can really change very quickly. So you can have 1 hour -5, and another hour you can have like +5. So you need to be ready for everything, and the best option for that is layering system. Much better than bringing a thick jacket, just because your thick jacket will take a lot of space in your duffel bag, and then you don't have any space for other things. So what I did is I had one thin thermal wear on top, one thicker thermal wear, a fleece jacket, a puffy jacket, but a thin one, this typical micro puff from Patagonia, and then my rain jacket on top. So it's all like quite thin material, but added up together as an onion, I felt so good. I wasn't freezing at all. I also got some gloves for like $2, I think, here in Kathmandu, and a hat, so I was covered. And that's how I would do it again. It depends, of course, if you go in spring, it's much warmer, or it's a bit warmer for you. If you go in December, it's going to be much colder for you, and then you also need to adjust for that. But what also helps you is, what I did is we came here with, we booked through Hostel World, and there you have the chat function to talk with other travelers. And I asked if anyone was up in base camp the last week and what the temperature was. So this gave me somewhat of a sense of what's the temperature right now. But again, changes all the time. Overall, I can really say it was an amazing trip. We had a great time with Chi Adventure. Can only recommend it. Go do the trekking in Nepal. You will, I think about this for the rest of your life. And we had a blast. If you have any additional questions that I didn't cover, let me know in the comments or text us on Instagram, and I hope I can help you out. Bye, everyone.